Week 5 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I look to sell and trade this week. The first guy, Owen Miller, of the Cleveland Guardians. So Owen Miller, what a start it's been for him this season, no doubt about it. And last year he had a cup of coffee with the Guardians, but now getting an everyday opportunity. 3 home runs, 13 RBIs, 20 runs scored, 333 batting average, and a 400 on base. So this is a guy who's been hitting the baseball great, getting on base for this Guardian team, and also has good versatility at first and second base in fantasy this season. So right now, he's taken a little bit of a drop-off over the last few games here, but he's still playing good baseball. But he's also a guy I don't believe that's going to hit over 300 when it's all said and done this season. Right now, he's new to the league. They haven't seen enough film on him. But that's what usually happens. A guy breaks out if he wasn't a top prospect, has some good games, and then the pitches catch on to him, and then he struggles. So right here, there's a few games here for Miller. May 4th versus San Diego, doubleheader, 1 for 8, 3 runs scored. May 7th versus Toronto, a doubleheader, 3 for 7, 2 runs, 3 RBIs. May 8th versus Toronto, 1 for 3, a homer, 2 RBIs. May 9th at Chicago, 1 for 6. And May 10th at Chicago, 1 for 4. So Miller right now, he's playing good baseball. But like I mentioned, over the last couple weeks, the average is dipping down a little at 250. But on the season, overall, the numbers are great. The versatility is great, and I think you could trade him for a decent starting pitcher, a back end or a 5th or 6th guy for your rotation in fantasy baseball. So right now, while Miller's playing good so far to start the season here in the first 5 weeks, this is a perfect time to sell him off and trade him, because I don't think his numbers are going to be sustainable. And the more the pitchers see video of him, I think he's going to struggle. The next guy is Byron Buxton of the Minnesota Twins. So I mentioned Buxton over the last few weeks as a sell-high candidate, not because he's not a talented player, because he's a guy that's injury-prone. And right here, once again now, the injuries are starting to kick in. He's got a hip injury, is Buxton, that where he's day-to-day, but on the season, he's putting up numbers, 9 home runs, 17 RBI, 17 runs scored, a 278 average, and a 342 on base. So right here, he's a great talent, no doubt about it, but he's a guy that's a headache to own with all the injuries, and he goes down anytime, anywhere, it seems like, he's Buxton. So the last few games for him, May 1st at Tampa, 2 for 5, a homer, an RBI, 2 runs scored. May 2nd at Baltimore, 1 for 4 with a run. May 3rd at Baltimore, 2 for 5, a run and a rib. May 5th at Baltimore, 1 for 5, a homer, 3 RBIs. May 6th versus Oakland, 1 for 2, a homer, and RBI. And May 7th versus Oakland, 0 for 3. So right now, he sat out the last 2 ball games with the hip injury, is Buxton. And he's an athletic center fielder who could go out there and get it. He's a guy that's starting to become a power hitter as well in this league. And obviously a hip injury is never good. But with those factors and his athleticism, this really could hurt him and hold him down. Even if he does play through it, we're definitely going to see struggles, I believe, here with Buxton if this hip injury is going to be lingering. So right now, while his numbers are up there, tops in the league, I would go out there and trade him and see what I could get. I think I could get a good starter, or I could get a hitter who's just as good as Buxton, but maybe off to a slow start, because I think this season we're going to see him hit the injured list at least once or twice. And right now with the hip injury, it's definitely concerning for Buxton's owners. So if you could go out there and flip him, this would be the time to do it. The next guy, Rowdy Tellez of the Milwaukee Brewers. So Tellez, he's off to a monster start this year, and he's getting an everyday opportunity. He's also a player I mentioned early in the week to go out there and get on the wire, but he is a case where you could pick him up and flip him as well. So on the season here for Tellez, 7 home runs, 26 RBIs, 15 runs scored, a 245 average, and a 300 on base. If this guy gets the everyday opportunity like he has this season, he definitely could finish the year with 25 to 30 homers, but he was never a high batting average guy. You get probably 230, 240s out of him. And right now, coming off that monster game on May 4th is just a reason to sell him high to a fantasy owner. So the last few games for Tellez, May 3rd versus the Reds, 1 for 4, a homer and RBI. May 4th versus the Reds, 4 for 6, 2 home runs, 8 RBIs, 2 runs scored. May 5th versus Cincinnati, 2 for 5 with a rib. May 6th at Atlanta, 2 for 5, 2 RBIs. May 7th at Atlanta, 0 for 4. May 8th at Atlanta, 0 for 4. May 9th at Cincinnati, 1 for 4, 2 RBIs. And May 10th at Cincinnati, 0 for 5. So right here, starting to slump is Tellez. He's only hitting 1 for his last 17. So this is the perfect time to sell him high, where maybe you could still sell an owner on that 2 home run, 8 RBI game last week here for Tellez, because like I mentioned, he's going to be a streaky hitter. He's going to be a guy who definitely has power, but also could only hit 230 to 240 average. And at this point, while he's up there amongst the league leaders in RBIs and decent in the home run race, this is a perfect time to sell him high, where you could get a decent starting pitcher for him, is Tellez. And these are the type of moves you want to do. Sometimes you pick up a guy who's hot on the free agent waiver wire, and then if you could flip him for something good, because you don't know the consistency of most of these guys, if they're going to have a breakout year or it's an early season fluke, this is the time to do it still early in the season where things aren't all panned out, because we're only 30 games into the season. You can't really tell if a team or a player is going to have a good year 60, 70 games into the season. So right here with Tellez, you still can't tell, and I would sell him high this week. The next guy, Josh Bell of the Washington Nationals. So Bell, he's off to a monster start, and he's ranked 6th in fantasy baseball right now. 4 home runs, 21 RBIs, 21 runs scored, 349 average, and a 444 on base. So right here, he's always been a pretty good on base guy, is Bell. But this batting average, no way, is going to be in the 340s, 350 range here. The power will be there, I believe, though. 27 home runs last season with 88 RBIs, but he's hitting out of his mind. And right now, this national team, they're one of the worst teams in the league, even though they got some decent hitters. Obviously, you got the monster in Soto, Nelson Cruz, who's off to the poor start. And now you got Josh Bell, though, who's on fire. But right now, while that batting average is way up there, he's definitely a sell-high candidate. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he finishes the season in the 270s, 280s here, is Bell, because he's never been known as a high batting average guy. He's known for the power, but only 4 home runs this season. May 3rd at Colorado, 3 for 5, a homer, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored. May 4th at the Rockies, 0 for 4. May 5th at the Rockies, 2 for 4, run and a rib. May 6th at the Angels, 0 for 3. May 7th at the Angels, 2 for 4, homer and RBI, 3 runs scored. May 8th at the Angels, 1 for 5 with an RBI. And May 10th versus the Mets, 2 for 4 with a run. So he's getting multiple hit games left and right here, is Josh Bell. And with the ranking at 6 right now, you could get a boatload for him, because there's no way I could even see him finish the season in the top 30, top 40 in the fantasy baseball ranking. So right now, while he's on a great run, is Josh Bell, this is a perfect time to sell him high. And I think you could get a top flight starter for him, or a hitter who's been a top flight hitter for seasons, but off to a slow start. In the 5th and final hitter I look to sell and trade this week's Tyler Ward of the Los Angeles Angels. So another guy hitting out of his mind and off to a great start this season. 6 home runs, 15 RBIs, a stolen base, 20 runs scored, a 364 average, and an insane 490 on base here. So Ward, he's off to a great start, but he's a guy that's injury prone a little as well throughout his career. And right now he's banged up with a hamstring injury, which obviously is tricky, which obviously is a big part, especially for hitting the baseball, where you got to use your legs and your body. So Ward, he's been playing great baseball. I know he's one of the top prospects coming through the system over the last few seasons here for the Angels, and he's lived up to it, and he's off to the great start. So the last few games for him, May 3rd at Boston, 0 for 3. May 4th at Boston, 1 for 2, a homer, 2 ribs. May 5th at Boston, 1 for 4 with a run. May 6th versus Washington, 0 for 1 with a run. May 7th versus Washington, 1 for 4. May 8th versus Washington, 2 for 4 with a run. But now he's missed the last 2 ball games, like I mentioned, with the hamstring injury. And with that playing a factor, and with him off to a start, it's not sustainable. He's a perfect sell-high candidate. Last season, he was 8 home runs, 33 RBIs, 250, and a 332. I think his numbers will be better than the 250 batting average. But if you could go out there and sell Ward high, this is the perfect time to do it while he's ranked number 7 this season in fantasy baseball. So that's a few hitters I look to sell and trade here for week 5 of the fantasy baseball season.